right, what's happening, everybody? Are you ready? LIFO, FIFO, weighted average, primary inventory cost flow assumptions. Let's bang it out. All right, so inventory valuation, the ending inventory value and cost of goods sold, that's going to go on the income statement, heavily dependent upon what cost flow assumption we choose. So first thing is under US GAAP, and for the international students, this may not make sense to you, but this is the way US GAAP does it. The inventory cost flow assumption, whatever you choose, LIFO, FIFO, weighted average, check this out, is not required to have a rational relationship with the actual physical flow of the inventory. So look, in the real world, the actual flow most of the time, if you own a grocery store, you want to make sure you sell the milk and the eggs before they spoil, right? If you own a tech store, you want to get the old tech stuff out before it comes obsolete. So most of the time, the actual physical flow for most units is probably FIFO, right? So the seller avoids having any spoiled or obsolete inventory. Under US GAAP, that's irrelevant. Even though the actual physical flow might be FIFO, you nonetheless can choose weighted average or LIFO or whatever. Okay. So what are the methods available under US GAAP? So specific identification, when you see that, you think unique goods. Okay, goods that are unique. Specific identification. When you see FIFO, first one in, first one's out, you think sell the old, the ending inventory of the new units. Okay, so you sell the old, the ending inventory of the newest. When you see weighted average, you think you got to have a periodic system to use weighted average. Conversely, when you see moving average, you think I'm moving around perpetually, right? So moving average, perpetual. We keep moving perpetually. When you see LIFO, we sell the newest, the ending inventory is the old. So since the last one's in and the first one's out, we sell the newest units, the ending inventory is the old. And when you see dollar value LIFO, you say, oh my God, no. What do you say? When you see dollar value LIFO, you think, hey, I need a price index. All right, so you're going to take your ending inventory at your current year cost, divide that by the ending inventory at your base year cost. And in an inflationary environment, the numerator should be bigger than the denominator. Thus, you'd have a price index greater than 1. But we'll see how that's going to work. Okay, so ending inventory at current year cost divided by your ending inventory base year cost. Okay, so we're going to go through these one at a time now. So specific identification, the cost of every single item is uniquely identified. So we can easily identify it like a car. It has a VIN number, right? Vehicle identification number or a boat, whatever. So the cost follows the actual physical flow of each and every item, all right? So it follows the physical flow of the item into inventory, out of inventory, into cost of goods sold. So normally use this for relatively large items or high value items. So maybe it's a car, a boat, a diamond, whatever. Okay, FIFO, here we go. We sell the old. What's unsold is the new. So very important. Ending inventory and cost of goods sold, whether you're doing a perpetual system or a periodic system, which we'll cover in great detail in just a little bit, whether you're doing a perpetual or a periodic system, your ending inventory and cost of goods sold is exactly the same when you use FIFO. Alrighty, so if they try to bait you into doing FIFO perpetual, which is tedious, you don't need to. You can simply do periodic and move much more quickly. Okay, so let's go through that example and let me walk you through it. So they tell us during the first year of operations, Helix Corp has purchased its inventory in 3 batches. So we have no beginning inventory, but we have batch 1, 4,000 units at 4.25. Multiply that together, 17,000. Batch number 2, we buy 2,000 units at 450. That's $9,000. And then batch number 3, 3,000 at 475. That's $14,250. So the first thing I want to do is calculate the cost of all goods I have available for sale. Okay, so that's $40,250. Okay, so the cost of all goods I have available for sale, $40,250. Now, what I want to figure out is, okay, which units did I sell and how many units did we sell? Well, they tell me, let's see, in total, 4,000 units were sold. So if you sold 4,000, right, how many units do we have available for sale in total? 9,000. Well, if you sold 4,000, that tells you what's in ending inventory, 5,000. So beginning inventory again is 0. All right, purchases, 4,000 at 4.25, 2,000 at 450, 3,000 at 475. So the units available for sale, 9,000. Subtract the units that are sold, 4,000, and that gets you ending inventory, 5,000. So look, under FIFO, which units do we sell? The old units. So 4,000 times 4.25. Okay, so what is sold? The 4,000 units that were sold come from the oldest. So the very first batch we bought was at 4.25, so my cost of goods sold is 17,000. So once you know your cost of all goods available for sale is 40,250, subtract your cost of goods sold of 17,000, and then you can plug, okay, 23,250 for your ending inventory. And if you want to check that, double check it. Well, which inventory didn't we sell? Well, under FIFO, we sell the old stuff. So the newest stuff is in ending inventory. So the 3,000 at 475 and then the 2,000 at 450, 14,250 plus the 9,000, 23,250. Okay. So FIFO, pretty straightforward. Notice, are we in a rising price environment? Yes. You don't look at total dollars. The 17 then drops to 9, then goes up to 14 because the total dollars is also skewed by volume. So we want the cost per unit. We started at 4.25, then we went to 450, then 475. Okay, so the next item I want to cover with you guys is in a period of rising prices. And again, how do we determine rising prices? On a per unit basis. You don't need to memorize. Set up a little balance sheet. Assets equal liabilities plus equity. And then your selling price minus your cost is your profit. In a period of rising prices, start with, well, what are we selling? Well, in rising prices, if we sell the old stuff is relatively what? Cheap. Put a down arrow for your cost, an up arrow for your profit. If you have higher profit, that means you're going to have higher retained earnings and higher equity. So folks, if you have higher equity, you know you have to have higher assets. All righty, so your balance sheet balances. But how can we directly determine we're going to have higher assets? Because in a rising price environment, if you sell the old cheap stuff, what's unsold? The newest, most expensive stuff. So since the ending inventory is made up of new expensive stuff, that's going to give you a higher asset amount. Don't memorize because they can easily flip this and tell you prices are declining per unit as we buy it over time. All righty? So you should be in good shape. Just set it up the way I did it. The units first, beginning inventory. We buy 9,000. Units available for sale, 9,000. Sold 4,000. What's unsold is 5,000. Okay, only 4,000 units were sold, so figure out which units did we sell? Oh yeah, the first batch, $17,000 worth. That leaves us ending inventory of $23,250. By the way, before I forget and talk about that, don't forget, FIFO periodic and FIFO perpetual. Whether you do ending inventory or cost of goods sold, you're going to have the exact same amounts, okay? So notice the FIFO periodic ending inventory is the exact same as FIFO perpetual ending inventory. The FIFO periodic cost of goods sold is the same as the FIFO perpetual cost of goods sold. Okay, so back to weighted average. When you see weighted average, you think you got to have a periodic system. Okay, we're going to value the ending inventory and cost of goods sold at the end of the period, however you want to define the period, for the month, the quarter, semi-annually, annually, however you want to do it. Okay, so how are we going to get our average cost per unit? You're going to take your cost of all goods available for sale for that period, however you're defining it, divided by the units available for sale for that period, okay? Now, this is suitable if every unit is more or less the same, homogeneous. It doesn't matter whether we sell unit 1 or unit 9, it really doesn't matter, okay? So you really should have homogeneous units, and you got to have a periodic system. Alrighty, so I take my cost of goods available for sale. Same facts. We bought 3 batches, first at 4,000 at 4.25, then 2,000 at 450, then 3,000 at 475. Multiply it out. Cost of goods available for sale, same facts, $40,250. Divide that by the units available for sale. That's 9,000 units. Our average cost per unit, 4.47. Okay, 4.47221 to be exact, okay, but 4.47. Take that weighted average cost per unit, multiply it by the units sold, and that's how you get your cost of goods sold. So we sold 4,000, multiply that by the 4.472, you get 17,889. Take that same average cost per unit, multiply by the units we didn't sell. What's an ending inventory? 5,000. So 5,000 times the 4.472, 22,361. Weighted average, you got to have periodic. Now, moving average, perpetual only. You've got to have a perpetual. We move perpetually, right? That's the way you're going to remember it. I'm moving perpetually. Pete's got ADHD. He's constantly moving perpetually. Okay, so we're going to compute the weighted average cost after each purchase. I'll show you how to do that in a second. All right, then we'll divide our total cost by the units available for sale at that point in time after the last purchase, get that average cost per unit. It's more current than weighted averages you're going to see, but you got to have a perpetual system. So look at the way I set this up. Again, first thing I have on the left side is all the units. All righty. So beginning inventory, 4,000 units. Okay, that's the first batch we purchased at 4.25. So 4,000 units available for sale at $17,000. Now, per the facts, we then sold 3,000 units. Well, they have to come from that 4.25 batch. There's no other batch. So your cost of goods sold for those 3,000 units, $12,750. So that leaves me 1,000 units at the 4.25, 4,250. We then purchased 2,000 units. Here we go. Now we'll calculate our moving average. Now I have 3,000 units available for sale. The last 2,000 were bought at $450, so that's $9,000. So 3,000 units available for sale. Cost of those 3,000 units is $13,250. Take the $13,250 divided by the 3,000 units. Moving average 4.417. After we have that purchase, we then have a sale of 1,000 units. Well, what are we going to use as the moving average cost per unit? 4.417. So my cost of goods sold for those 1,000 units, $4,417. That leaves me 2,000 units available for sale at that average cost of 4.417, $8,833. Okay, we have another purchase per the facts, 3,000. So now I'll calculate my moving average again. The 2,000 plus the 5,000 units available for sale. The 3,000 units were purchased at $475, $14,250. Add that to the $8,833. We have 5,000 units available for sale at a total cost of $23,083. Take the $23,083 divided by the 5,000. What's our moving average now? 4.616. If you have a sale again, use the 4.616, and that's it. All right, moving average, though, I'm moving perpetually. Pete's got ADHD. All right, my friends, on that note, you know what time it is. It's time to get that cup of coffee. I got to get up, stretch those legs, get that ADHD out of me. I'll see you back. Don't do it. Don't go to, get your coffee and then come back. Let's watch another video. See you in a little bit.